me double check real quick to make sure it is all good. Come on, YouTube, catch up. I know you like the delay. Okay, here we go. Cool. Okay, cool. All right, cool. All right. Just wanted to double check. I do not let anything no more. I did a last recording with another collaborator 3 days ago, and I was using the wrong mic. It was taken from my camera mic and not my, professional mic. And the other person on the other line for an hour and a half didn't even know. So I didn't till afterward. I found out the wrong mic was clicked. I'm like, man, I'll never let that happen again. But hey, you live and you learn. So what up, y'all? We are back for another episode of Premi Prego. You already know how it goes. My name is Maestro Stevens. Let me make sure my sound effects is all good. What did Dr. Dre say?
The next episode.
We're in the next episode right now. I'm here with the infamous Greg Doss, and we are back as we have been. We've already hit y'all with about 2 live streams already. This is the 3rd live stream we're doing, and it's only getting better. It's only getting greater, and we gonna keep being your friendly neighbor as much as we can. You already know this is not legal advice, so that's why I said a friendly neighborhood, like neighborhood Spider-Man. Shout out, Spider-Man just came out. For those of y'all who haven't seen it already. But Greg, I'll let you kick it off real quick with your starter, your disclaimer, and then we'll get into it.
Hey, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you letting me join you. My name is Greg Doss. Actually Greg Doss is not infamous, but DJ Squid is. And as always, I'm not an attorney. I don't have a license to practice law. I do not practice law. What I've done is study the law and tell people what I've learned and how I've gathered the information, which is generally through my experiences. So I don't give information as advice to apply to your specific case, but it's general information regarding the law and lawful principles, which, by the way, belong to the people. So please use any information obtained that you hear from me for educational purposes only. If you feel you need legal advice, I would highly encourage you to hire a licensed and hopefully competent attorney in your state or area and be legally advised. So with that being said, if you wish to continue to be a part of this presentation, you can stay. If you want to leave, leave. But just keep in mind that it is definitely for educational edification only.
Ain't that right? You know what? You remind me sometimes. There used to be a favorite movie back in the day I had. It's called Major Payne. And I had clipped a couple of things from that movie.
Damon Wayans, yeah. And Mark Curry, I believe, right?
And Mark Curry, yeah. He cameoed. A lot of people don't know that he cameoed in that joint, man. It was an old girl from Fresh Prince. I forgot her actual name, but man, she was beautiful back then.
Right.
Yeah. She was over a tiger and she was with the kids. But yeah, man, I'm grateful to have you here. I'm grateful that we are back at it. We've had a lot of conversations, in the meantime, between time. And for those of y'all who have not went back to go, look at a few of the videos on either Greg's channel or my channel, I suggest that you just check some of those out. So that way you keep up to date with what we got going on, because we're just building on top of things. And today is a part of that build. Today was a conversation. Well, this was an interjection in a conversation between me and Greg. And I thought this was an interesting point to bring up in terms of using the word pro se and having to make that choice, whether or not you're going to decide to go that route or hire a lawyer. And either way, that person that's going to be representing you, whether it's you or somebody else, needs to be professional. That's the key thing. Greg is big on talking about, you can't be an amateur coming into this. You can't be soft. You can't act like you don't know what you're talking about, or you might as well not fight at all. So I thought it was a great, interesting topic of conversation on how to better yourself, to, become more professional, especially if you are representing yourself. But regardless, you still want to be on your best behavior. You want to have your P's and your Q's, your T's crossed, your I's dotted, have everything set up. So if you do hire somebody, you can make sure they have the best of the best. So Greg, anything you want to touch on that real quick before we start jumping into it?
No, I'm going to actually follow your lead. And I know I'm wearing my traditional sunglasses because it kind of goes with the 1 in 10,000 that we do know is from the presentation. And you read actually read everything to include the renewed motions to vacate, the amended one. You've seen the order, which I guess we haven't had a chance to break that down. Maybe we can sometime later. But it's all right there. And the position didn't change, and that's the same thing I took to the Tampa City Council, and I told them, we need to have some real audits of this stuff because there was no legal epiphany on July 23rd, right? The judge just did what shocked us all for the most part, from what I'm understanding, shocked a whole lot of people. She just did the right thing. So, but throughout the process, to include the oral argument, you're going to see where I was turned away and turned away and turned away. And all I did was I stayed with it. That was just it. And I just continued to hammer it home because those who don't know, if you go to my page or to the oral arguments with the second DCA, you'll hear one of the judges say, we read everything. Well, if you read everything, this shouldn't have taken an additional 3 or 4 years or whatever it is. You should have noticed that what I was saying was true. There was no underlying petition or complaint. And then there was the service issues. A real challenge to jurisdiction is what my case showed, is what a real challenge to jurisdiction would look like if you had those as a grounds for having your case dismissed. And so we know it happened for me. So, but I'll let you continue to lead. I'll let you lead the show. And like I said, I'm just happy to be here. And I do appreciate the way you titled it about being a pro level litigant. And to what you were saying before I went into that pontification, if you walk in that room playing games, you're going to get your ass handed to you. It'd be no different than if somebody went into whoever's watching this, your profession and what you do every day, and they were pretty much a novice, or this was a side hustle or some side thing for them, and they played in your face. You're going to drag them. At least I would. If I played football, if you step on a football field during this time of the year when they have an OTAs, if you step on any of those 32 teams field and you somehow slip through the cracks and you get in one of those drills, whoever you're drilling with is going to treat you like you're a person there and they're trying to keep their job or get a job. So they're going to run through you like, a ghost. And that's the way that they are inside these courtrooms. We're the only ones who are not pros, Maestro. We're not getting paid to be there typically. Everybody else, this is what they do.
Right. Right. That's very much true. And because of that is the reason why I often hear you, make sure that you tell fathers to hire a lawyer, let them know, tell folks to hire a lawyer, because if you're not going to go into it with the mentality of a lawyer, you're going to find it very hard for you to get what you want. You might as well just let it go, let them do what they're going to do and go from there. You can't be going into the situation where
emotional damage.
You can't be going in there emotional. You know what I'm saying? You can't be doing that because they'll eat that alive. Now, it's okay to show, especially when it comes to like the custody stuff, more than anything, I would say it's appropriate to show a little bit of emotion, because they often want to be able to see you actually care about your child. But when it comes to civil cases, criminal cases, child support cases, that, from my perspective, is when the emotion, it ain't gonna cut it the same way, because you're not talking about, for the most part, or you're not referring to a child, that you're fighting for. So that's just something that I thought was very interesting to understand more than anything. But when it comes to becoming a professional, because that's what I believe, I want to become one. I'm not going to even say that I am one. I think that I'm at the forefront of, where I need to be, at least for right now. And it's just going to be a few more years before, like Greg, they can't stand me now. To be honest with you guys, they can't stand me now. And to be 100% honest, because I usually don't always update, but I have a hearing coming up on the 4th. So I got something 2 days away, a pretrial.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it took me 6 months to get them to do the same pretrial they did 6 months ago, because they wanted to say that there was a stay granted and they couldn't enforce an order. And so because they can't enforce an stay was granted, they have to wait till an appeal process is complete. Lo and behold, because I stayed on them, I kept calling. I called 4 different magistrate chambers. I called the judge's chamber. I called the clerks, and I got them to look at get their legal team involved. And they finally admitted they were wrong and ended up giving me the same thing I requested for 6 months ago, almost from today. So when Greg says you got to stay on it, he's giving you the 20 7-year view, as they say, the 500-foot pole view, I got at least a 50-foot pole, and I'm feeling that right now.
Well, I'm definitely gonna wish you much success. I know and I'll tell you what I told the guys of the day. And shout out to Taisha Scott reporting. Uh, she stood in the paint for me. Take your court reporter. The transcripts in not only this case, but the case at the second DC District Court of Appeals where I won. The first thing they referred to was the transcripts to find out where the procedural errors were. And no matter how well you write it, you're going to have some sort of substance, or how well you may think you present your case in front of them. You better have something substantive to put in front of them.
And if you don't trust me, they will. They'll take it from there. There's one thing I will say, that there's a common denominator or theme between me and Greg, and these are different situations, even in different, let alone states, let alone jurisdictions, let alone topics. But when I had plugged in a lot of what we talk about into Claude, into ChatGPT, it found a lot of themes, and it was a theme I already recognized. So I like it when the AI is able to verify. But I also like to argue with the AI too, because it helps me challenge myself to see if I know what I'm talking about. But when it came to characterizations, mischaracterizations, this is something that we talked about in one of the previous streams. And when you are becoming more pro at this, you have to learn that the facts are one thing. They're supposed to find facts. That's what evidence is for. But when they don't have that, they lean on characterizations. That's just one of the things that they're able to lean on in order to justify some kind of decision at the end or ruling. And I like that I was able to talk with the AI to pretty much come up with a conclusion based on just my opinion and my perspective. Was the characterizations are areas where we can attack more. And it was something that it saw and even in Greg's cases, because he's transparent, he puts all the stuff out there, so you can synthesize a lot of his stuff. And he saw exactly what I saw and then matched it to what happened with me. And it was just because they're leaning on so many characterizations, it makes it easier, not easy, but easier for us to challenge that. When they lean on facts, when they have facts and evidence, you're gonna have to work harder. I mean, that's just just making it simplified. But Greg, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I wanted you to expand on that, synthesizing the information to utilize it within the chat, because these are things that wasn't familiar with. You introduced me to AI in a different way than I would have known it, because it wasn't my field of expertise. But the thing that I was always willing to admit, like I tell people, what helped me grow was I was always willing to admit what I didn't know, if nothing else, to myself. So I wasn't here with a competitive, with that so-called I want to be a competitive or the right guy kind of mentality. And I went through it and just it kind of built on it. But you're absolutely correct. You got to find some kind of tools or a person. I speak to a lot of attorneys. I've spoken to a lot of them. Of course, I don't want to mention them because, I have a unique reputation locally and probably in the whole state. Actually, I guess now United States, because I'm at the United States Supreme Court. And but I've learned so much. And what the tool that you introduced me to, and we'll say it's Claude, and everything that I have is, you can tell everybody, I actually pay the top dollar for it, because I cannot afford to not handle this professionally. It goes back to what you're saying. I have the elevated version of Claude. I have a Westlaw account. I have the elevated version of, what's that other thing? The ChatGPT, which I rarely use anyway, but I think it's OpenAI. And I have Open Case. And then, but I also always knew how to do legal research. So I didn't throw that to the side and just rely on it, because, and I'll be honest, I treat my AIs like Tony Stark treated Jarvis. I had to build it to be a benefit to me and what I need. So I cuss it out and do everything else that I would do in any other coaching session. So, I would suggest that people actually rely on somebody like you to even tell them how to, what did you call synthesize? What did you mean by that? Synthesize what you pull from whatever I try to do. Whatever I do that can help you. That's what I'm here for. And candidly, I'd rather people use what I already have done than to call me. Which is why my prices are set like that. I don't think you need me. I think you need to rely on whatever tools that can better benefit you. And for young people, they can rely on somebody like you, because you're more familiar with technology. I'm like a dinosaur working through technology, so it's a little bit different for me, but I do utilize it. In fact, I have an attorney in a case I'm dealing with now that cries about the shit, which is just baffling to me. You know, he actually cried to the judge. He thinks I'm using AI, and I'm thinking, what is it? What is it the case? You know, and it's not against the law. And I do put my AI disclosures on my filings, as you probably saw at the bottom of mine. I put it in there now because a lot of judges want that because they don't want people just throwing AI cases out there that don't exist. So I verify that I've done the research and I've applied it and researched it to make it beneficial, which again, there's time involved in this. And Maestro, you could probably better tell your young people who have these short attention spans that if you want to try to compress it or what have you, that's probably not going to be the right direction to get you the end result that you want.
Let me show. I like to show more than I can tell. When we talk about synthesizing and we talk about using the AI tools, you all need to, and I'm giving you some gold right here. So whoever's watching this, I really hope you're paying attention. And if you're not, that's your loss. But when it comes to synthesizing things, I created a tool for myself. And I created a tool to help me create a private workspace for myself, get all my information, because I got tired of seeing my information in my folder on my computer. And it's great that AI can reference a folder on my computer, but I thought higher than that. I said, you know what? If I had all this information in a chart-like, graph-like app that I can just go to it and see things, you know, that are how many files are in my case, what are the dates in my timeline, you know, if I want to know facts, if I want to know straight up quick facts, like how they say quick facts, if I wanted to know the quick facts of my case, what would that look like? And this is just an early stage of something I built for myself, something that you all can do for yourselves. But as an example of what Greg is saying, what I did was I created these fictitious cases, these just made up cases, right? And I created these cases to see, do these cases fit, you know, the parameters of different case types, but still I can still see the same information. So calendar, big thing. If you are going to have a weapon in your tool belt, you know, one of the greatest weapons in your tool belt, if you are Batman and you got that tool belt around your waist, calendar. You know, don't try to write everything down on a piece of paper like we in 1942. We are in 2026. Greg ain't that much of a dinosaur. He ain't doing that right now. I'm telling y'all. So put everything on your calendar, Google Calendar, Apple Calendar. All I did was I told the app to make a calendar for me and make sure every day, and I'll be cussing the AI out, make sure every date is accurate. Don't get one thing wrong because it's going to throw me off if I'm using this app and I'm not looking at the source files. Timeline. What is the timeline of the case? Very, very important thing. Greg has talked about this on multiple occasions. So when you mix your calendar with a timeline, now you know a sequence of events. And I'm sure, Greg, you can you know, address that as well, how important it is to have a sequence, you know, of events, because they love to miss stuff and they don't want to see it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Sorry, making sure you keep a track of the chronology. And, you know, a lot of that would, well, I gotta be careful. But when you, just like anything you do for anything that involves you, whether you're building a platform out and behind your house or whatever you're doing, the process, the steps are important. Because if you wanted to explain to somebody what exactly you did to make sure that you're in compliance, so to speak, if you had to pull a permit, you want to be able to say, hey, on this day I did this, and this, and ultimately I got here. And those things are what and then when you match them with a set of transcripts, you know, your record with the transcripts for each proceeding, those are what help you or help me get to in many instances or most instances really my desired goal.
And you just hit a key word about what this whole you know, I guess personal app represents in terms of being a pro say litigant, but being pro level at your own litigation. Transcripts is a part of that tool, but the record, like when I say the record is one of the most important things, that's what this is mainly built around, is the record. Like that's what this really is. It's the record. You know, it's not my opinions, it's not my assumptions, it's not my thoughts. No, this app is just reflecting the record, but in a more palatable way that I want to be able to see. I just made it more visual. It's the record. So that's why I'm saying exactly your motions, your filings, your text messages, the transcripts. If you got all that scrambled in 50 different places, you ain't on no pro level. That's not how a lawyer is gonna act. At least not the good ones, as far as that I know. The ones
Oh,
that I
being
hire.
organized, or is it
Staying
definitely?
organized.
Yeah.
Staying organized, knowing what your issues are. One thing that I definitely noticed is from my experience, they love to conflate issues. They love to hit you with you didn't they don't even always want to tell you what you're coming to a hearing or a trial or what you're coming for, and then they ambush. I call it ambushing. That's just my term. They love to ambush me with something that ain't got nothing to do with the case, or something that I filed that I didn't think I was prepared for to come to this hearing, and they love to merge things so that they can throw you off. Nobody taught me that. I had to find that out the hard way. They love to merge things. So I'm very careful when I file things, going back to the order. So that's just an example of when we talk about organization and pro level preparation. For me, that's a visual way. That's why I said let me show the audience, Greg. Synthesizing all that information was being synthesized. But like I said before, one thing Greg is I would say great at being able to provide a lot of folks that are watching this that he's working with. He provides his information. He provides his record. I've never heard him once say, "Don't throw that in the Maestro. Don't you dare throw that in the chat GPT." Maestro, don't you dare. I've never heard Greg say that once. So y'all need to take that and run with it, because a person who has actually had winnings, you know what I'm saying? Charlie Sheening, winning. He's had winnings behind himself. You want to throw winnings into the AI and then synthesize that and then compare that to what you got going. But Greg, does that clarify a little bit what I was talking about?
Well, yeah. For me, it does. I kind of had an idea, and I would say that I can't. It's kind of like you tell your kids, can't nobody can say they love you and they don't want to tell you the truth. I can't say I'm trying to help people if I don't say, hey, there's been as many failures as there's been success. I just don't, and I think people can learn from my mistakes. The victory is the easy thing to talk about, correct?
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm doing anybody any good by just talking about my successes. I don't think I help people, and you might disagree, by just showing you where I'm successful. I think you learn more when you see where I've had failures and I've had issues other than or I've had cases beyond the child support cases. And I didn't realize people did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
That child support is probably one of the things I'm telling people now that we're on live, but that it was the child support experiences, Maestro, they gave me confidence in other arenas. Because I've been to child support for so long, and I've had a couple of cases where I had traffic tickets and stuff like that. And then as I went through the more difficult areas of the child support part, and as I started to get a little bit comfortable, I ended up having, and I don't recommend anybody getting these situations of driving out license cases, which were related to the child support cases, which I was contesting. And so, because I have such an affinity for Dr. King, the Messiah, Medgar Evers, some of the civil rights workers, Nelson Mandela, I'm willing to go to jail on principle. So I'll do that. I don't recommend people do that. Now, when it came to the house thing with the judge, that's a totally different issue, but I fought that by myself. But if I didn't had I continued down a road of, I don't want to call it foolishness, things that people were saying they were doing, but when I watched them and started looking at their record, were saying, that's not how this went. I had to say, in order for me to be successful, I had to be able to operate within the venue that I was in. I couldn't bring theory into a lot of these places. I had to bring something that was substantive so that I could get the end result. So I had to start learning how to study case law. Before this technology, remember, Maestro, I had to go to law libraries. I'd take a wheelbarrow of, I had one of those little pull behind luggage things. I had my books that I would buy. People can't really see them behind me, but I still have my library of the books that I used to buy. So, and I shout out to my pops and the support system that I had, because you can't see them, but you have about, probably $20,000 worth of law books behind me. And then I had notes from people who went to law school, who were friends of mine, who passed things down that I studied. because that's the arena that I was going to be in. Beyond my personal experience as a union steward and stuff like that, that was beneficial as well in my time in the classroom. But I had to say, it is not what Greg wants. It's what is required that I had to go and say, let me utilize it. Because, I pushed back against you when you introduced me to Anthropic. Although I appreciate Anthropic's stance on not turning over information to the government. But you were like, I'm telling you to use this. I'm like, okay. And I was talking to, when I was talking to my pops today, I said, Dad, I used to tell you all the time, if they had to deal with for me, they'd be in trouble. He said, yeah. I said, they kind of do now. The only thing I don't have is somebody to sleep for me. But as far as getting the information and gathering and going through it, this technology is, it's turned me into something even more difficult than what they probably, and it may have just been the perfect timing that all this came up at the time that my cases are the more economically enriching cases popped up. This stuff came up and it helped me, but I still spend 12 or 13 hours a day studying, researching, and doing everything else so that I'm, at the top of my game. It's like anything. If you want to be good, you can't be great doing just the bare minimum. It doesn't work that way. You don't make the Hall of Fame being an ordinary guy. They're the elite of the very elite. Hey, you don't even get on the court being ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
Or the field or the diamond or a tennis court or whatever, boxing ring. The ordinary don't go anywhere. So and I love your title, is if you want to be a pro, you gotta be pro level. And if you're not, you're wasting everybody's time. Well, they're gonna laugh at you inside the courtroom, but you're really wasting your time. You'd be better off getting you an attorney, which I recommend anyway, but yeah.
And to that point, I mean, I know you have a disdain against people who go in there claiming what's that term called? Using what is it called? Just left my head. Where they try to use the Constitution, try to use the thing like
I don't want to the SC. I just say SC people.
Well, I would say sovereign citizen, because this is how you gonna feel.
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
You're gonna feel like that. I just watched the case just the other day about somebody trying that, and it was interesting to see the judge trying to. And one day we're gonna start doing reactions to it. But I'm watching the whole thing, about 15 minutes. It's out of Texas, and he came in there, trying to pull that move.
People riding swings with diamonds in their necklace. Okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm from. You know what I'm saying, hometown.
Okay.
But I was watching it, and it was just interesting to just see him, attempting, and the judge is trying to, give him some leeway, but also the judge is also trying to let him know you're not going to win this way. And it was just funny to see. I'm looking at the comments, and it's just funny to see that like two things could be true. Both parties can be wrong. This person, trying to make them claims and not actually learn the law the correct way is wrong. But the judge was also making some incremental mistakes that when you accumulate it, if you look at it from a totality, the judge was giving the wrong, advice and contradicting themselves and this and that. And it's just little things that I think that the more professional you become at anything, the more your eyes, the more your ears are able to see and to be able to hear things most people ain't never going to see. Most people are never going to hear, especially those who are not going through it. So when Greg has said, jumping into the another arena, I thought that was very relevant, because when you are in a situation, for instance, starting off in the family court scenario, and you grow that muscle, because it's a muscle, a muscle, you working out, you can take that strength that you got from this one gym, from this one area, from this one boxing ring, and go to a whole new boxing ring in a whole nother place, and you ain't started from scratch. Maybe some things may be different in some ways, and your players may be different. The players most likely to be different, but that muscle you built that came over time, that just don't go away.
Nah. And also, if you go in there weak, for lack of a better word, they're gonna show you how weak you really are.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of weakness, what did you? Let's go into your victory, your recent victory, because I think that can show a little bit of strengths and weaknesses in some of what they try to do to you and how you were able to overcome that.
Which one, the second DC or the child support?
The well, start with the child support one. 27 years that you allude to.
Well, the in the a complete narrative in 2 parts is available here on my channel at Greg Dawes GD I just, you know, my case, simply put, was an action began in 1995 involving a supposedly from the Department of Revenue on behalf of some person who was not a Florida resident. They tried to use UFSA, which even as you go and look at, actually there's a third one too, the I'll call it the famous Denton, the Denton hearing where he ended up recusing. And I started to see, okay, as this thing has gotten to where I kept on pushing, you know, I did notice everybody was recusing that was actually instrumental in this thing getting pushed this far out. And so I just renewed it. I had gotten lazy, and shout out to the child support basics guys. You all were so pivotal in me getting back on it, because, you know, I was like, you know, F it, I don't care. If they do it, I'll deal with it if they bother me about it again. But I wasn't paying regularly, and they were mad, and they sent some stuff. And then, you know, I forgot, I saw something one day. Somebody said something. I don't want to get into it, but somebody said something. I said, you know what? Let me get back on this. I got back on it. And granted, I'm a lot better as far as framing and what have you, but I just stuck right back to it. Looked at what was in the record and just articulated the record back to them and went back to the law. There was no initiating complaint. There's a number of background issues, which, you know, because of the military, we talked off here. I don't think it's important. I don't want to bring up the mother because it's not an issue I had with the mother. I had an issue with the process. And I just stuck with it. And I don't know, did I tell you before I got because I was sitting inside of the hearing, getting ready for the Delaware hearing. And, you know, I don't know if you had a chance to see that yet, but I was in the Delaware hearing, and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, how am I going to deal with this? And all of a sudden, how you doing, Ms. Bennell? I popped in, and I was looking at the screen, because, you know, I had the multiple screens. I was actually out of town, but we have the multiple screens. I'm looking at the screen. I'm like, Jaws. I'm like, so I'm thinking it's a rejection. 2 days earlier, I had a rejection. I went back. I made some minor adjustments on the order. I'm thinking about rejection. I'm looking at it, signed order. I had to look at it again, signed order. So I'm sitting at one screen, and I punch it up, and I'm like, oh, damn, I got it. So I go into the hearing, and I don't know how they get more mad at me in the hearing than I should be at them for effing up my life for 27 years. And, you know, in candidly, I had no problem saying I was so overwhelmed. I had to go wash my face off, because I was like, wow, it's like a victory. It's a relief and vindication. So I called my dad and say, you know, hey, Pop, we got it. And he's like, well, what? And after I kind of composed myself, said, we won. And then, you know, I was out of town, so I called my lady and said, you know, we won. And she was like, you know, congratulations and what have you. And then the me in me started to bubble, because I'm like, you people took 27 years of my life on some BS. And we're always soldiers. I'm glad I do. And for all the veterans out there, make sure you take advantage of your benefits. Use your mental health therapy, because I was in a bad place for a couple of moments, because I'm not necessarily wired to just let people walk over me and think it's okay. But I have people who depend on me being here, because otherwise, I told you, this might have turned into a story, because I'm not cool with it. Because ain't no amount of money you can give me for those 27 years.
Right.
You know, because what I paid you is not close to what you've done to me. And I know there's other guys out there, and I hope they can take that part. So before we crash out, utilize your you know, the benefits. If you happen to be a veteran, and this thing started when I was in the Army, to some degree, or it came from the Army. But I tell guys, reach out, and you'll hear a pretty good thing on our one we did the other night. Remember when Mrs. Bennell came in and spoke to guys having places to go and talk to, which is what and passing the torch to people like you, the young people who actually want to help people. Not that I don't, but I'm old. I'm 58 years old, older now, and have other things that I want to accomplish, and I have other cases. But it was a lot came out of me. I sat there through that hearing, and we have some really good information from that hearing. And I'll tell people this: they sent me a packet, and I went and picked it up. I don't even know what the heck I did with it. And I'm like, you all are supposed to send me what we were talking about in this hearing, and I don't know what the heck they sent me. This is not what I asked for. And this is not what you all promised to send me. Because I know y'all need to send that. Y'all need to send that other stuff back. Appreciate that. The I can't. I don't want to mess with that name. How he 888. The part that is that I want the money's going to come back because they're going to just do that. There's I have my notice of intent out, so I'm sure I'm going to get the procedural violation I'll be compensated for it. It's just a matter of what can you give me that's going to make me feel okay. And not only me, what have you done to so many other people? And that may not be my business, but like I said, there was no epiphany in my case.
So it says Delaware didn't give you all the documentation that they
did not.
said.
No, ma'am, not at all. And that's troubling, but we'll deal with that. I'll request a record because they recorded it, and we'll bang with it. But whether it's 2,000 or 3,000, whatever the dollars I happen to paying, because there were points in this process where I did capitulate and say, I want to get the license. I would go do this, and then I have people who are more concerned that some of the stuff I was going through is more of a setup, so to speak. I don't want to get into conspiracy, but it'd be disingenuous for me to pretend that I'm not on somebody's radar significantly. Not because I'm against the system. I'm absolutely about staying in order and following the rules. But I think they're more concerned that we might create more maestros who are younger, more astute with this technology, and they can bring the guys to a good place a lot sooner than what I could. What's going on? Is it Kylie Mack? I can't. I've been messing up these names. Young people. I'll just call you by the number 06. I think that what I represent is what you all can be much better than me. You're younger. The technology is going to be much more fluid for you, and you have an example that I didn't have. You all have a Greg. You can watch all my screw ups, all the things that I did well, and be much better prepared. I didn't have a Greg. I am Greg. What I had is a bunch of goofballs that were telling me to do some of the stuff that you were talking about. And I used to go sit in the courtroom and watch that stuff go left like a NASCAR race. You know what I'm saying? Left. And I'm like, hey, that might not be what I want to do. So I had to sit down and she said, I'm not gonna get it. Don't be that way. Let's hope. I expect the best I expect people to do their job. So it was a bluff when they thought they were going to give you the vacation came up. I mentioned it later that it was vacated after I let them do their part, right? I didn't interrupt. I just took some copious notes, and then I told them I think there was a material change in I said, well, no, I think there's been a material change in circumstances. Thanks for putting that banner up. Don't let that banner go down. There's been a material change in circumstances, and the case has been vacated. And all of a sudden, they're mad at me. What did Greg do? I showed up and all those so-called tax offsets, and there's going to be some good information in that one, Stro. When you get a chance, when we go through that, it's interesting to watch a hearing or go through a hearing in another state and to see that this is a pervasive attitude with some of the people in these agencies. And don't be laughing, man, but I think it's kind of funny that and frustrating how they handle people. I'm just glad that I was able to volley or counterpunch and do what was necessary to get to where I am. But there's nothing. One reason I didn't want, and to your question, I didn't want to get too far into it. Anybody can go and look at my record. I prefer you go on YouTube and you'll watch me go through it. and then you can know how to go to Hover and pull it up, because that way you also understand how to record keep and track your own case. But you can see all my cases for things that ain't got nothing to do with child support, everything from I've been arrested a whole bunch of times. I just managed not to have no convictions. So like I said, I'm not afraid to go to jail. Hell, they took the Messiah to jail, right? So I ain't better than him. So I'm about the work. Hopefully you all can avoid that and still get a great and positive outcome.
All right. Well, I'll let Greg say his piece. I'm gonna say my piece because Greg don't represent me and I don't represent him. This is how I feel. Because me and Greg, we got similar opinions, but we two different people. This is how I feel, y'all. When they be on that bullshit, I be like this.
Oh shit! Say it again. Say something else.
This is how I feel. Okay. Like I don't sugarcoat shit. This is why Greg got his channel, Maestro got his channel. We got our own battles and our own cases. And out of all due respect, I make sure Greg, the disclaimers and everything like that. But Maestro don't give a shit when it comes to their feelings and things like that. I'm telling you right now, because the way that they've been treating me and a lot of other fathers out there, if you don't have that dog in you, now I ain't 58 years. When Greg said he was 58, I almost pulled a Kevin Hart and said, damn. But I had to keep my mouth closed. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to say shit. I let that go. But me being 40 years old now, and this being my first baby, she only 4 years old, and they playing games with me. I don't got time for that. What old girl say?
Ain't nobody got time for that.
I ain't got time for it. But you have to put time into it, and you got to tell yourself,
Today I got time, cuz.
today I got time. And that's what Greg did. When he got that rejection, he said he responded immediately. If he didn't respond immediately, do y'all think he would have got that win? Do you really think he would have got do you think that he would have got what he wanted to get at that time? I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. Something that y'all might want to learn when it comes to objections, speculation. I'm not going to speculate. I'm giving you my opinion.
It calls for state of mind. Yeah.
State of mind, right? We ain't talking about Alicia Keys and Jay-Z. This ain't New York, right? This ain't New York state of mind. We talk about the state of mind of a pro se litigant at a pro level representation of himself. And no one person can tell you how to do it. You got to take bits and pieces from everybody, and the things that you think that make sense for your situation, you take that. From somebody else's situation, you take that, and you build your Voltron. You build your Megazord. Because I'm telling you, not one person is going to save you from whatever it is you're being attacked for, you're being accused of, you're being thought of in a way, being mischaracterized, a way you don't appreciate that, you don't like it. Ain't nobody going to save you but you. At the end of the day, and Greg ain't got time for it either. He told me that many times. You know how many times Greg has told me like it sound like a broken record, DJ Squid. Maestro, I ain't trying to. Maestro, I ain't trying to. Maestro, I ain't trying to deal with this no more. I'm like, I hear you, Greg. So let me take your what you've sent me, what you've given me. Let me fuse that energy to everything I got, because y'all hear I'm getting passionate now. You know what I'm saying? I let Greg do his turn. You see I feel what I got, and I'm gonna do it my own way. I'm not letting nobody tell me how to do it no more, because every time that happened and I lost, I felt stupid. I felt dumb. That's all I got to say. Hands up, don't shoot.
I get yelled at quite often because the passion in me doesn't come out on air, unfortunately. Well, it's a little different, but people who watch me in the courtroom know I can become extremely aggressive. I just think, my teaching method and my coaching methods in private sessions are a little bit more aggressive, but yeah. And Ms. B over there has, we've had some things where she's 100, she's on 100 when it starts. I ease into it. Like I tell my parents, I tell my mother, I say, they seem to want Queenie. They don't want Calvin, because Calvin is the, Pop was, he's a chief in the Air Force. He made the E9. My mom, country, Gullah, she's there. I try to ease into it, but once I get there, I become aggressive in the writing and in the posturing. I just don't want to give anybody the. I couldn't believe the level of corruption in Hillsborough County. Oh yeah, it's there. Oh, it's there. Yeah. And if you know about me in Hillsborough County, you also know what I've gone through in this raggedy county. Plus, I don't want to miss out on what we knew Mr. DeBose and I think Mr. Voss went through, and that's 60 years of prison time for them. And if we'd had the current administration in Florida's governor office, Mr. DeBose gets executed, Maestro. because he was commuted from death row, and then it took the Innocence Project to get him out. And I'm looking at,
Hold up.
you know, he has what 14. They get a total of $20 million to the two of them, but that's 60 years. You can't go to the universe and say, hey, give me back. Let me go ahead and give you this and get back 35 years. He spent 35 years in prison for something he didn't do at all. I looked at 5 years or something I didn't do at all. I happened to win. Mr. Voss did 20 years, and he wasn't even in the same county. Exactly. And this is what goes on. And with child support, I did a 27-year bid on something I had nothing to do with. I was just able to fight off of it while having, some measure of flexibility and freedom. But what about the guys who don't? What about the guys who are paying $1,000 a month when they should be paying $120? That would still be a win. Are you entitled to $880 a month of credit plus moving forward? And the audacity, Warren Queenie. And you think about this, Stro, had I just went along with it, I would have already paid out a long time ago. So what would have been the chance of me getting money back? If you overpay, say I had paid them the 40 or 50 or 60,000, whatever it would come up to be, do I even get that back?
They're gonna fight you for it if you try. What I'm
They'll probably try to fight for them $3,000 over there, and then whatever Florida has done. Plus, what about the license suspensions, reinstatements, the damage to my driving record? I haven't had any auto accidents that I've been at fault for. Insurance rates, all the things that go in with it. So, we're gonna jump into it, but think about it. And what about you? You say you're 40. You have at least 14 more years in some capacity of dealing with this.
Right. That's the reason why I take a page out your book, but at the same time, I'm okay if they do this. Go ahead and hate me. I want y'all to hate me. I want you to hate every bit about me you can hate. If you're gonna not play the game fair, you're not gonna. I'm asking for my fair due. I'm not asking for no more, no less. If you ain't gonna play the game fair, like I said, I'm gonna make you hate me, and not in a way where it's because I'm over shouting you and at trial or at the hearing, or because I'm calling you names and I'm making false accusations. No, you ain't gonna hate me that way. You're gonna hate me because I'm gonna combine the legality, I'm gonna combine logic, I'm gonna combine reality and technology, and you don't want that because I'm taking food off somebody's table. Y'all don't want that, at least from my perspective.
That's the right attitude. And I'll take a word from one of your Texas cohorts, Scarface, and also a man, George Clinton. He has something, I'm gonna make you sick. I'm gonna make you sick of me. Then I'm gonna give you the antidote, something to make you feel better. He said, I'm gonna make you sick of me. But and that's the way you're supposed to. That's the way you're supposed to approach it. Again, different people have different manners. I'm not perfect at just what I did. Eventually worked for me. It probably would have happened a little bit sooner, but as she says, everything happens in its own time, due time. And a boy Moose said, maybe the universe, there's like in the Bible when he said, and I don't know whether you believe it or not, but they say it's a book of philosophy. God hardened Pharaoh's heart. So even though he knew the right thing to do, he chose not to do the right thing. But it was a part of the learning process that was a part of the Exodus. And maybe these people were necessary. I had to slay them necessarily, not so much for me, but for something much bigger than me. And that's what I kind of think is going to happen. I think so many people are going to benefit from what happened. And, I don't want anything. I don't expect no accolades. I did what I would do anyway. But if it can help the hundreds of thousands of guys in this state get even some modest amount of relief, then it was all what I went through was all worth it, man. Which is also why I'm transparent. Shout out to Will Crowley. We got to get him on, Mr. Credit Man, because he was one of those people in the part of those groups. In fact, he has there's a video on my channel where we talked to, he's the credit guy. We look at Will Crowley. He used to teach UCC and all that stuff, so he knew about that stuff that SC stuff. And actually, they tried to label me one of those until they found out I was a veteran. I said, well, that don't even match. So, but he's the one that was transparent with me. He's like, hey, look, Greg, everybody's going to give you this message about how great things work. They don't tell you the other side. He said, I'm looking at 50 years for, he's doing OIDs and what have you. And he said he had to go through that process. And so he tells the truth. And so from there, and this is, 13, 14 years ago, I started showing everybody what I went through. That's why I'm always transparent, because his transparency to me helped allow me to avoid some catastrophes. Okay. Because I've seen people get their doors blown that do a lot of the stuff that people may do here, not on your channel, but do around the YouTube and the social media diasporas that I know is bullshit. And they know it's BS. But it sounds good, but it only sounds good to those who are underinformed or uninformed. Because to the rest of us who've been in there, we know where it's going to end.
And it don't always end well. I think everything that's happening is showing that a reset is needed in all government systems right now. Is it Cersei? Yes. I'm hopefully it's Cersei, but yes, I agree with that. This is something, and I think it's always healthy to have different perspectives, right? Like I will never ever follow somebody. Matter of fact, what attracted me to Greg was the fact that he was very bullheaded and bullish, and it was just like myself. What attracted me to a lot of Greg's content was he was a no holds bar. Even though he wants to make sure he doesn't cross the line, because he has a lot more things on the line than a lot of us do. But I appreciated that he still tell it like it is. He reminds me. That's why I said major pain in the beginning. If you were at the beginning of this, what my stuff sound effect? I said Greg reminds me of Major Pain. Because he has the militant background, but he also has a heart about it. You know what I'm saying? And you sometimes you separate, having that militant. My mother was in the military, so she was very strict with a lot of things. But sometimes you forget that people in the military are still human too. And so that's what reminded me, that's what attracted me a lot about Greg's content. Now, at the same time, let me get back to my point, because I'm giving Greg his flowers. Like I said, I almost said damn when he said 58. Well, Greg giving his flowers. When it comes to our different perspectives, I can't speak for Greg. I will never speak for him, but I believe, like Cersei is saying, I think a lot of reform needs to happen. I believe a lot of the process has been tainted and compromised, and the systems aren't what they should be at the modern time period that we're in. Maybe they were made at that time period and things were what they should be. But in my opinion, I believe that we need to make some changes. And so that's something that I'm very passionate about in terms of first fighting, right? Before going into all that father's rights organization, stuff like that, I almost went down that path. I said, no, first let me get the knowledge. Let me get the experience. Let me get understanding, and let me get the proof. Then once I do that, I can end up something like what Greg is doing, and he goes into the civil council and the committee, and he's able to speak and share his story and share his testimony, because he's been there, done that, and as they say, got the t-shirt. So I'm looking forward to one day being able to have the evidence behind me, the past behind me, the experience behind me, to go in there to actually have a point that is not based on my feelings. And I can tell my story, even though I don't have Greg's background. He has an immaculate background. I ain't got that. But at the same time, what I do have is that dog in me, as they say. So that's how I feel about it. What are your thoughts, Greg?
Well,
That's my dog.
well, that's what you need. In that arena is only for all pro arenas are for dogs. They're not for the people who are passive at anything that they do. And you mentioned something about some of these groups. I had to give a shout out to Steve the Dean Williams, because I was a part of the Man Mindset. And he found me on another platform for somebody else. This is when I was doing Blog Talk Radio. And for those who don't know, Greg Doss is also DJ Squid, and I was real rough as Squid. Okay, my mouth was reckless. Not that I gave a shit, but I was a part of some of these men's groups, and Steve, the Dean Williams, and God bless him, he said, Greg, I don't know why you hang around those groups. I said, what do you mean? He says, you're not a problems-oriented guy. You're a solutions-oriented guy. Why are you doing that? And I was like, damn, he's right. So I started to say, I knew what the problems were with child support. I wasn't feeling well. I didn't have the academic understanding. I don't want to say legal because they get something started. I didn't have the academic understanding. But as I began to do what I knew I was good at doing, which is being a student, and started studying, I started getting someplace. Got to give a shout out to Sean, to be enlightened McDowell. I call him Bubba McDowell. A couple years older than me, guided me through so many different things, spiritual, what have you. Jimmy Holmes, we call him Brother John Me, helped me with a whole lot. And Frank Webb at UPS, Marine jarhead buddy of mine, older, used to just talk to me about my perspective versus what everybody else was seeing. And to the two, Sean and Frank, I got to apologize because I have more faith in people than they needed. And Frank and Sean said, I don't understand. Sean, I don't understand you, DJ. I don't know why you think these people are going to be better. I just thought people were going to be better and people would do what they're supposed to do. I've been wrong, and I have no problem saying that. You know, some of these people are just, they're garbage and rancid people. But I had a lot of guidance along the way, and I have the greatest father a man could ever have had, and that's Calvin Doss. He's able to support a lot of what I had going on, help me maintain my dignity, ensuring that I have, you know, children that had opportunities for great educations. And also, I got to give a shout out to the greatest institution of higher learning in the city of Tampa, the University of Thomas Jefferson High School. Coach Nelson, coach, the winningest black head football coach in Hillsborough County history, was my coach. And I had who I think is the single greatest individual coach in the world was Coach Hub, because he didn't let me throw my high school football career away because I didn't put in the work to continue to stay a starter. But when I had he put me in a game and I made plays, and I realized, hey, I knew I belonged, but keeping my head in the game and putting in the work is going to always get me the result that I needed. And I carry it with me every day. Love that man to death, Coach Harry Hubbard. And, you know, the crazy part is he thought I should have just went and played college football somewhere. And who knows how things would have turned out had I done that. So I had a lot of great guidance along the way. My mother, she thinks I don't appreciate. I appreciate her because she gave me my father, because she chose that man to be my dad. So I appreciate that. And I have a lot more of her. I just, I try not to just go upside people's heads anymore. But, I have that part of me is still in there. So I'm not forgetting about a lot of things. I don't say if I'm necessarily forgiving. I just happen to have a unique balance when it comes to certain things. If I had my way, I'd probably be a whole lot more Queenie than Calvin. Instantly. Oh, yeah.
I'm going to drop a Don DeMarco for everybody. Don DeMarco. I say this. I'm not so forgiving. You know what I'm saying? I let God do that, okay? Right now, if you coming against me on this type of territory, I'm not so forgiving. I'm not forgetting. I'm not forgiving. None of that. Now, if you done made a mistake, right? If you done made an error and it was an innocent error, okay, that's different. But if I start to accumulate, because that's something
you want to see some contrition, though, right? You want to see some contrition from them, not just I messed up. F you, huh? Yeah.
No, we ain't doing that over here. We ain't doing that over here. Like I said, I'm forgiving when I know that it was an accident. I think that's reasonable, right? A reasonable person should do that. But when I can start to find the pattern, that's something when it comes to going back to being pro level at this. I believe 100% you ain't gonna be no pro if you can't find patterns. You will not be a pro if you cannot see and find patterns, because what a lot of times I've experienced is them trying to create one-off scenarios, right? Oh, well, that was an isolated event or incident, and not look at the pattern, the totality. And you have to be able to draw those patterns and you have to show them. Right. Absolutely. And there's many different ways to do that, but you have to show. Pros will show the patterns. And I remember speaking to ChatGPT. I'm gonna give y'all a little bit of a AI gem real quick. But when I talk to ChatGPT, I talk to Claude. They're trained. They are trained to always look at the one-offs until you show the patterns. They're trained to try to give as much grace as they can to the court system. I'm not here to speculate or to criticize the training. What I do is I use it as a way, okay, if I can argue down the AI and I'm arguing it down at the highest level, right? Because every AI has an intelligence level. If I can argue this AI down at the highest intelligent level, I know I have more of a stance on being able to see the pattern. And those patterns helped me be able to understand that it's accumulation. And I think when it comes to Greg, the way that I perceive Greg's situation and why, in my opinion, that they had pretty much, I don't want to say they had no choice, but the way that I see it, just for lack of a better term, they had no choice. Like they were tired of him. You know what I'm saying? Like it's been so long, he stayed on it. We ain't got, just let's let this, you know, I ain't gonna say the word, just let this motherfucker go. You know, like let's just be done with this whole thing. It shouldn't take 27 years, but in my opinion, that's something that I think that they, you know, were kind of bound to do, and it took how many different people for it to see it, and that's something that inspires me. Now, I'm not trying to go through no 27 years. I'm keeping it real. I ain't trying to go through no 27 years of that. And I'm not, and that's the beautiful part, that not only did Greg not want to do it, he was willing to go through it. And a lot of y'all have to be willing to go through these things in order to come out on the other end. If it takes 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 16 years. And listen, I'm gonna keep it all the way real. The one thing I will say, especially as a father going through a lot of what I'm going through, I become more empathetic and understanding. Even though I still be on that, like if you're gonna do it right, you know, do it right the first time. As my mom used to say, if you're gonna do it right the first time. That was her military background type mentality.
My mom said the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, how ironic is that? We never even had that conversation before. But in terms of, you know, just doing things the right way, you got to go into there with that kind of mentality. And that's one thing that I definitely understand when it comes to speculation. You have to fight back with the facts, with the evidence, with the record, with the patterns, with as Greg said, the chronological order of events, because they'll try to move things when it's convenient for them. When it's not convenient for them, they want things to be exactly what they are. You know, little patterns that I've noticed in my experience. And so using AI, going back to the AI part, throw your data, throw your information, throw your court record, throw your transcripts, throw the text messages, throw Greg's stuff that he allows y'all to have. Take other, you know, if you're dealing with other people that have had, you know, rulings and you can see them publicly, you know, especially a lot of appellate stuff, it's public. Some juvenile stuff is private, so you're not going to get the benefit of having that, giving it to the AI. But just look at those things and create Greg called it a library earlier. Well, a digital version of that library is something like using a notebook LM, something like building a project folder, putting all your documents in there, you know what I'm saying, and categorizing those documents. Now you have a library, and you don't have to have what Greg has, you know, behind him right now. I know you can't see it, but he said it earlier. He got the whole thing behind him. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to have that. You could have a digital version of that on your phone. You know, and sometimes it takes practice. A lot of y'all don't want to practice. I don't go over my case every single day, but I do multiple times a week because it wears me down. You know what I'm saying? I got to make money. I got to do other things. And they're hoping that things wear me down. So I make sure I go into my case every couple of days. I make sure I renew my information. I look at everything and I just keep arguing with the AI. I think, and you know what I'm saying? That's one of the best things I've learned. Like instead of arguing with other people, I argue with the AI to see where my gaps are, where my flaws are, where my holes at, where am I making mistakes that I should not be making. That's how I like to use the AI. It's not perfect. It's not. But Greg said open case, Westlaw. We said ChatGPT. We said Claude. Use these AIs at the highest model. Not when I say highest model, I'm saying like use the best model available. That's what I mean by that. Use the best model available and take that information you get from one tool, put it in another tool, and see does it come out to the same conclusion. And you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised at what they both see and what they both don't see. And you as the person either representing yourself or working with a lawyer, y'all filling those gaps. To me, that's professional.
I'm reading a comment. I don't know what the person, 6545, mistakes may be given, errors are costly. You're correct. And I see the comments. I appreciate the comment section being on live. I wish I should have thought about putting it out to more people earlier, but my group, the child support basics group's going to get it. There's like almost 100 members in there, and then the school people as well. But the thing you brought up, wear you down, and that's the thing that I believe. If I was to say, staying on the outside looking in, a lot of people tell me I have what's called a tenacity. But no, I just, I look at things as a play. The play is over. Either the play was successful or it wasn't. Okay, I come back. I don't just quit. I come back and you get on to the next. Like Bill Belichick says, do your job and get on to the next play. Don't sit there and jaw with them back and forth. Get to the next play. Don't spend too much time on it. And also tendencies. In sports, everybody has a tendency. That's why the NFL players are so good at what they do. They know tendencies. They know how not to get out leverage. Baseball players. Baseball is the ultimate tendency sport. basketball, certain players have tendencies as well. The pros know what your tendencies are. They've already studied you. And people just look at the 48 or 60 minutes or whatever, the 9 innings, that baseball, or the X number sets a pro tennis player, the X number rounds of a boxer. They don't know that before that boxer gets to that presentation for us to pay our money to see, they've dedicated countless hours. And you made a comment about, you say you don't do it every day. I do it every day in some capacity, but there is some information overload that can come about. But I've invested in me. I practice daily. I practice again. I played 3-dimensional chess against myself. What would I do if I had to beat me? And the same way that I approach how I'm dealing with the opponent in front of me, because you gotta think about this. And I want everybody who's ever seen anything about me or heard anything about me. Every time I went into a courtroom, I've gone against a professional. I'm the non-professional. I don't have any wins against, no offense, Maestro. You've never been my opponent. We're talking about State Farm. We're talking about not Progressive, was it Geico? We're talking about the state of Florida. We're talking about the Department of Revenue, state of Florida. So if I had taken a laissez-faire approach, I'm gonna get my ass kicked. And I had to invest in me. So when you say using the highest models, yes. Is it costly? Absolutely. Because I can't afford to be half-assed. I can't. You don't see pro basketball players playing hot boxes because they'll roll ankles and you're not going to be as productive. You don't see NFL players playing football with tennis shoes on grass fields. You just don't see it. They have to be, everything has to be at the highest level, because hey, you drop a pass on 3rd and 6, it's 4th and 6, and you're probably punting. That drive may determine the outcome of a game, which determines whether or not this dude over here loses his goddamn job. And with us, you lose an opportunity inside that courtroom, you may not even get another one, because most people can't do an appeal. Let's just be honest. Most people can't. I had to go through it. I've done about 15, 20. I don't even know how many I've done. I've typed up to 15 or 20. I don't know. I've had 3 oral arguments that everybody can see. I'm in front of the United States Supreme Court. Do you know how many hours of sleep I did not get? Reading the federal rules, going through the process, reading all those cases, by the way, to see how that case applies to what I had going on. And the frustration of knowing you all just aren't doing what the rules required. But they have the power to turn me away. But if it doesn't go well in the Supreme Court, I get to file the case in state court and move forward in state court. But I don't get to take days off. I just don't. Plus, I'm gonna catch the ball and make you miss, and I'm gonna talk about you the whole time. And that's the mentality I have in these courtrooms.
I want to address this comment real quick, just to give people a warning when using the free tools or the free versions of the tools. You got to be careful with that, because they're training on that data. You are the product at that point in time. And the good thing about you using the paid version of the tools is that they're not supposed to be training on that data. And the reason why I'm using the word not supposed to be, because even though it says it in their terms and they say these things and they give these privacy policies, at the end of the day, I don't trust none of these corporations when it comes to our information, right? I mean, that's just my perspective. But I will say this, you do have more protection when you use the paid version of the tools, because again, they have a privacy policy, non-training policy of your data. And I think that that's very important, especially in, legal cases and things as such, because, you just want to protect yourself a lot more. We are in the data information age. For a lot of you all who don't know, we are not going backwards. It's data, it's information. That is the new currency. That it's way bigger than money. You know what I'm saying? It's way bigger than money. Information is everything. So just be careful with that. I'm not saying don't use them, but just be careful of what information that you give it, especially when you're uploading sensitive documents and sensitive information, especially when you're using Chinese models. I'm not going to get into all the political or politics part of it, but the reality is, despite what you believe in, it don't matter. non-US models and non-US companies and labs, they don't apply by the same rules. And I know on Greg's channel and on my channel, we talk often about the rules of the court, the rules of civil procedure, the rules of, there's so many different rules that you have to understand. And so just keep that in mind. Was it Cayenne or KL? Just keep that in mind. That's all. I just wanted to, let you know about that, because I've seen so many people fall for that trap. So many people fall for that trap.
It's kind of like people who've never been to another country that think that the rules that apply here. You've been all around the world, and I had to remind people that Constitution might be good over here, and it ain't great here as far as how people might necessarily apply it. I think it's a great parchment in theory, but when you take your ass to another country, the rules are different, and I think a lot of times people lose sight of that, to a great degree. But yeah, I just don't use. I believe you get what you pay for, and that's why I just pay for it. I'm glad I have those resources. Just like insurance, if I have insurance questions, it's not a secret. I have a case, and I have had multiple auto negligence cases that I've had to deal with. I had to deal with one. I'm currently involved in one now. I have a case involving fraud by inducement, involving to some degree, the United States government. But the bigger people are the attorneys that were hired by State Farm Automobile Insurance Company, a compromised VA doctor. I say this stuff out loud because they all know the facts are already there. I've had to deal with judges who turn blind eyes to misconduct by attorneys. I'll say that too. I've had these same attorneys potentially are the ones who told the bar about me, have me with a UPL claim from the Florida Bar Association, unauthorized practice of law. That means that you're on somebody's radar. Mm-hmm. I also had the Florida Supreme Court step in when I had the perjury case, because they sent the judge in from another circuit after I had gone through 4 judges here to preside over a case where I was looking at 5 years in prison. Those are 5 real years in prison. I ended up winning the case. Okay, they prosecuted me for 7 months. I ultimately got a favorable outcome, which brought me to my malicious prosecution case, which is in front of the United States Supreme Court. And one of the issues that we're attacking is perceived or proclaimed judicial immunity, which I'm thinking a judge who participated in a criminal investigation should not be allowed judicial immunity. But you can go look those things up on the Supreme Court's website and find it yourself. But my bigger point was you get what you pay for. I'm sure Miss B will, and anybody else who's a professional in any other arena is going to tell you, you're going to get what you pay for. And if you get it for free, expect what comes with free. There's a reason why things come with the cost, and you pay more money for a high-end attorney than you pay for I won't say a low-end, but a guy coming right out of high school. Coming out of law school. You're not going to pay the same thing for blessed dead Johnny Cochran and Alan Dershowitz. What's your boy that represented George Zimmerman? He's no longer on that side. He's actually a civil rights attorney. Mark Romero, you're not going to get those guys for low ends. You're going to pay for what you get. I know everybody may not have the resources, and I thank God that I had people who were willing to invest in me so that I could invest in myself. But that's probably the best thing you said. I won't say advice. I don't use that word. But one of the best things you said is you get free, expect errors. And some of those errors could be irreversible. It may cause you to waive something that you otherwise may not have wanted to waive.
Yeah, that's why I say, anytime they offer you something for free, you are the product. And I feel like that's the same thing when it comes to family court. I believe 100% I am the product. Like the way that there's a number attached to my case, and they try to get you to quickly go through the factory, and they look at us like, oh, we got another product. We got another thing. I look at it just like that. Product. You are the product. But before I address this part, one other quick point I want to a hack. If you only had $20, because like Greg said, you can't afford not to use these tools. Now I know Greg's saying he, is paying with the $100 plans and $200 plans and $2,000 plans and things like that. But let's just say you only got $20, right? Let's just be realistic. A lot of people watching this channel or watching the replays are not going to always have that $100 per month for every single app. So on my tech channel called Iconic Templates AI, look it up, Iconic Templates AI, I did a video that said if you only had $100, how would you spend that $100 so you can have multiple AI tools that do best what they do best? You don't have to have all $100 to one tool. And one hack that a lot of people don't know, you might want to write this down, and trust me, you can go ahead and test this theory, it's true. Use ChatGPT as that first $20. Now, the only reason why I'm saying that is not because Claude is worse. I'm saying this because Claude is stingy. Anthropic is stingy. They are a greedy company. They do not care about their users the way they care about their enterprise customers. ChatGPT has a different methodology. So the reason why I'm framing it like that way is
I should feel good with Anthropic, huh?
Hey, listen, I'm not giving advice. I'm just letting people know. But what I'm saying is that for that $20, because ChatGPT does what they call resets, right? Anthropic don't give you resets. So once your stuff is gone, it's gone. ChatGPT, OpenAI, out of nowhere, they'll reset your account. So you may have, no more left in your week. And in the middle of the week, they'll reset it before your week is up. They've been doing that very often. And sometimes they're so generous, what they'll do is they'll call it banking. They'll give you a reset and you can use it whenever you want to, like you stacking chips in the bank. So for that $20, you might end up having $60, $80 worth of actual AI usage versus that $20 with Anthropic. That's a golden nugget for y'all. $20 can get you up to $60 to $80 of usage because they reset your account out of nowhere and because they give you what they call banks, meaning a reset you can use at any time. There is no other company that does that. But Greg, did you want to address this one? We had somebody that said between federal court and state. I'm not sure what they're referring
what's
to.
the context? I don't know.
Right. That's what
they have my number. They can call us while we're live, and I'll answer without being legal advice.
That's real. That's real. Matter of fact, the whole point of leveling up, right? That we're just striving to say, to you tie all this together, to wrap all this together, is being able to understand that you have to treat it as Greg said, a sport. And I like the way he used the metaphor play. You have to have a playbook. I promise you, like the stuff I showed you in the beginning, like this stuff right here. I'm gonna add this back to the stage. This information right here. Now you're not seeing my case stuff, right? But if I had my case stuff, it would be in my own app. This is my playbook. I have so many plays. I got plays on top of plays on top of plays. I'm talking about, like, I call them strategy documents, right? So where I tell the AI, hey, whatever I think, because I know Greg has the same thing that I have, where we have these thoughts in our head, and if we don't write them down or put them on wax, you lose them. So anytime a thought comes to me, I didn't think about that. Oh, wait, hold on, that one part. I'm looking at this order, and that part didn't make sense. I didn't see that 6 months ago. You tell the AI to update your strategy document. That's your playbook. So then you become like that coach or that playmaker, you know what I'm saying, in the game, to where no matter what they throw at you, for the most part, not always, but for the most part, you should have some kind of play ready for that, because they'll try to hit you over the side of the head. I'm telling you, they'll try to hit you over the side of the head. So that playbook that you have, that's your strategy documents, right? And that's the way that I like to look at it. Just make sure that you all, you have something like that, And then what is this? This last one, that's my concern. I feel like I'm being targeted here in Hillsborough County after my last attorney was allowed to withdraw 2 months before trial from a big law firm after contacting. Ooh, that's a lot of man. What? I'm gonna drop you a Don DeMarco. That's a lot of contacts.
Is it a criminal or a civil case? 888. Is it civil or criminal?
Yeah, that's an interesting.
I would definitely highly recommend, if you're this close to 2 months before trial. If it were me, I would go to legal aid and see what I could get. See if I can get some sort of assistance with my situation. I don't know it, and I probably wouldn't suggest you put out what exactly it is in front of, because it apparently it's an ongoing case, so you don't want to put out too much information. But if it were me, let's look up how to look up legal aid. Legal aid. Oh, Tampa Bay Legal. I mean, Tampa Bay Legal. I think it is Tampa Bay Legal Services. I'm trying to pull up Tampa Bay Area Legal. That's what it's called, Bay Area Legal. So let me give you this. Click the copy link, and hopefully this right here will help you out.
Yeah, this is why you gotta join live, right?
Yeah, it have to be the Bay Area. Bay Area legal is who it is. And you know, again, you're a couple of months away from trial. I know the bad feeling of having an attorney drop you. Not only it's a bad feeling, a unique feeling. I had an attorney drop me, and we immediately picked up. But it's good to have people like the young lady here, and my father having a background in insurance, and having, again, I think it's like my 4th auto negligence case that I've had to handle on my own. So I was a little bit more prepared, and it does help that I spent a little time with a law firm, and I've had some pretty decent relationship with attorneys that I've either done some independent work for. I haven't worked for anybody since 1999 because of child support, other than myself. So I've done mostly gig work. And every single one told me the same thing. So I had to make this. I didn't answer. And I'm in appellate court. Is it criminal or civil? 888, civil or criminal? Did I miss something?
Those are 2 different
Oh,
things.
workman's comp. That's civil. Okay.
You know what's interesting? My experience, you know, y'all said what you got dropped. Listen, I dropped 2 attorneys, but one thing I can definitely say that I'm grateful that based on me hiring these attorneys, that I was able to get out of it. Goes back to what we were talking about before about synthesizing. It's one thing. Now here's the thing, because Greg doesn't live in Ohio. He lives in Florida. So no matter how much information that Greg can give me, I still have to go by Ohio law, right? I have to go by Ohio practices, Ohio procedures, Ohio, the jurisdiction of Ohio, right? And one thing that I noticed, and the AI said the same thing, like I said, I've been using the AI for over 10 years now. A lot of y'all probably don't believe that because you think that ChatGPT and Claude is like, this is AI for the first time in y'all life. I've been using AI for over a decade. I promise you. This is the smartest it's ever been, though. That part is different. And being able to take the filings, right? So let's say for me, I represented myself 90% of my case so far. The reason I'm saying 90 because I said I hired a lawyer, right? So I say between 85 to 90% pro se, and I hired 2 lawyers, and I took all the filings that they did for me, even though I didn't really get anywhere. That's why I hired lawyers, because I got intimidated. I took those filings and I gave it to AI to synthesize. And when I gave it to AI to synthesize, it smacked them in the head. Because before I was writing my motions and filing my motions, and some places called petitions, tomato, you got to figure out what it's called in your place, right? But when I was filing my stuff, I was doing it based on what the AI was able to give me based on its training data, right? And that was great. Like, it got me somewhere to be able to get somewhere. However, once I gave it what the actual lawyers that are in this jurisdiction, like how they write and what it looks like, because it looked totally different than Greg's stuff. Like it was a different format. It was a different way. Now the as Greg had taught me, the issues, rules, application of law, conclusion, all that stuff still applied. But the good thing is even if you're not working with the lawyer or you had a lawyer, take those files, because you're supposed to have the documentation that they file on behalf of you. Take that, give it to the AI, let it synthesize, and I'm telling you, that's going to be for me, how it worked for me. It turned me to pro level filing. Now, it doesn't mean that I was pro level, giving oral arguments. As Greg says, you got to get in there, and trust me, they try to keep you from getting in there, at least from my perspective. But
mine too, my reality.
Right. But when it came to,
and I've done 3.
And you've gotten 3. Right. But when it came to those documents, though, I can tell you right now, that right there was a game changer. It gave me more confidence. It boosted my confidence. Confidence is different than courage. Confidence, you're more confident when you have when you have the information. Courage is almost like you got to create that out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? You like to be brave and to be courageous ain't the same thing as confidence. Confidence is usually backed up by something that you are able to see, touch, taste, hear, smell, feel. Courage is a whole different thing.
Or believe.
I like that. I like that one. So that's why I'm just saying, I'm just dropping another gem to y'all, that actually using the lawyer's information. I know we don't want to disparage or whatever. I'll believe that to Greg. I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna say this: I take the information that they did give. That's the blessing. You know what I'm saying? In disguise, it cost me a lot of money. I paid over 40 grand for lawyers that didn't get me no further than where I got on my own, and I ended up appealing two cases on my own. But I appealed both cases using the objections that I had the lawyer file for me. Even though I didn't get what I wanted, it gave me the confidence. I already had the courage. It gave me the confidence to file an appellate brief. And when you file those appeals, that's a long document. You know what I'm saying? It's not the same thing as filing a regular motion. So I just wanted to say that real quick, while you were, looking for the information for
I put it in there. I'm seeing now how to, I had it just on our private stuff, but that's my contact information. I think it'd probably be a little bit better if we had that discussion there. See if I can get you direct to it. Somebody. I'm not a lawyer referral service. I don't pretend to be one, so I don't necessarily recommend attorneys. I might be able to help you. Just coach you into how to. Well, you're at the appellate process now, and that's again. I think it's probably easier just to reach out, and then we'll see if we can get somebody who can possibly help you. I know of a couple.
I have to put your stuff up, right? I mean, you got your stuff up.
You mean stuff's already on the internet? No, don't put that.
Yeah, I'm used to everybody. I'm used to but you transparent as a mug, so I ain't got to worry about that. But that's the beautiful part about it, though. Like that's why I said y'all got to use what Greg has shared, because not a lot of people do that. A lot of people don't share their information transparently. They don't give you the opportunity to download it. If you're in his circle, especially if you're, a member or in his circle, he is very transparent. Even if you're not a member, if you're not in his circle, he's still transparent. If you have the opportunity, what I do, I can tell you what I love to do is I'll take Greg, because he makes a lot of content, and so he has a library of content. Like he's the Netflix of some of this pro se litigation stuff. He's got bingeable content, right? You can watch all day. And so I like to take his transcripts from YouTube, right? You can go to YouTube, click on that, to open up the description, click on transcript, and then highlight all of the transcript, copy it, paste it into the AI, and then ask it to help you, whatever you need to do, take that information, based on your situation, and, put it to work. That's what I do. Because you can't have time. You don't have time all the time to watch every video. And I think that it's more important for you to talk with Greg on a one-to-one. But if you can't do that, because everybody, doesn't either have the time or they can't afford to do that, I would say one of the things that I love to do is to be able to, like I said, take those transcripts that Greg does. He speaks very clearly. The AI like never has any issues with his videos. It has issues with other people's videos that be going off topic. And I think that's one of the greatest things that I was able to add to my strategy, in my litigation. Took me to a pro level status.
I'm trying to see. There we go. Do you all see this is my website? There we go. And so any of the information that you need is right there for you. You'll be able to see everything from, my journey is pretty clear for everybody. I had the foreclosure about the houses. And you can go into many places where you can actually see me, but all the information there, even my cases, some of them. But I've probably done, I don't know how many appeals, man. We don't even have any idea, but it's all right there. And you'll see the disclaimers and what have you, but you can definitely reach out to me. We don't, and then I'll see what I can do to help you find somebody that can help you through the process. Maybe even get the appeals court to, you don't want to lose something in the appellate court, and get a PCA, and again, without me seeing it or having somebody else look at it who's a professional, you might be, it's uphill. Because I don't want to say too much here because I have an active UPL case, but I really hate that you got dropped by your attorney a couple months before trial. I'm actually bothered, Miss Cersei is talking to you there, and that's a good thing, because I guess you can tell, Maestro, I'm processing what she's putting out there, and it's a workman's comp issue. Well, you can reach out, and it's easier to have a personal conversation, so we can get you directed somewhere to get you the help that you need. And if you've already gone through trial, there's procedural issues that may. Yeah, see, you're nodding your head, Marshall. You're thinking the same thing, huh? Yeah,
I know. I was processing as well too.
Yeah. Wow. I should.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a lot. I mean, I'm sure it's a lot. What are your so you know to bring things
Share his
to
information. I saved your phone number. Thank you. Okay, she should be able to obtain another attorney. They can't drop you 6 days before trial. There has to be some ethical responsibility, so I'd explore that. Yeah, well, you can go to rules of professional conduct. And I'm wondering, did you reach out to the bar when they dropped you? Because attorneys can drop you, but typically when they drop you, they'll drop you, and then the judge would typically extend at least what happened with me. I'll speak in my situation. I've only had one attorney drop me, and they're a massive firm as well. They dropped me. I picked up discovery. I found my notice of appearance almost immediately. I did search for attorneys, but because I was so deep in the litigation, many didn't want to take the case. I'm blessed and fortunate because it's an auto negligence case, so I had some familiarity. Again, I have my dad, I have Ms. Bonnell, I have other people who had done it, I had other attorneys. So I didn't just fall off the table. Workman's comp would be nuanced for a guy like me because I don't know how that works. But the 2 months before trial, and that you end up going to trial, is what's drawing a red flag for me. I don't know if you just had to, but okay, the things they allow is crazy. Yeah, if you can, when we get over here, just reach out to me, 888, and we'll see if we can talk about it. And then Miss B, who's a insurance person, she probably understands the workman's comp thing way better than me. Plus, I had a guy I could have probably turned you on to, an attorney who I learned a lot from. Actually, he thought I was an attorney when I was reaching out to him the first time. He thought I was an attorney, and the questions I was asking him, like, no, I read.
Lost art, right?
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the part, Marshall. Now I'm processing what I'm looking at, and I'm like, 2 months out.
Listen. Let me clear, because it's one of those things where sometimes, your leg gets chopped off. You be like, man, my leg is chopped off, and you feel like that's the worst of the worst. Then you see somebody else, they got their legs chopped off and their arms chopped off. I'm just giving an example. My attorney withdrew the day before trial. Okay, like, so in my appeal, my attorney withdrew the day before trial. In the morning of, she wrote her withdrawal letter.
The judge allowed it.
And what do you think? Why do you think I'm appealing right now? So that's how evil this stuff can get. Wrong with it can get.
I do wear my glasses because of the light, so I gotta learn how to dim my screens. So November 27th, she withdrew. Well, she can't withdraw without the court's permission, under Florida rule, and yeah. So what Mrs. B is saying right there. Yeah. Okay.
So it seems that this person has an argument. They have something that they can argue. It seems.
And then what I'm hoping is that give some weeks to figure it out in the middle of the holidays, end of the year. February 19th was trial. Oh my God, y'all didn't reset and just cancel the trial docket? My case was originally scheduled to go to trial in January. He withdrew. I think I missed the CME. It's not a secret send file. I had to reschedule the CME. I had to end up paying him some sanction fee because I missed it. Okay, I'll pay that. I don't care about that shit. But we just in fact, we don't even have a trial date now, Maestro. I have depots to do. I have other things to do. But I definitely want you to reach out, because I'm sure we can get somebody that can help you. I'm surprised legal aid didn't. And if it were me, I probably would have contacted the bar. Because that is wild that they didn't set the trial back. I actually missed our scheduled trial date, and I'm still on docket. I just find it strange that the judge would have forced you into trial unless
in
you
Ohio,
waived something, huh?
in Ohio, for my state, we have the disciplinary council, right? It's out of Columbus, and when we have, like you just said, get in touch with the bar. When I had my issues, I filed grievances. That, like, I didn't let that go. I filed grievances with the Ohio Disciplinary Council because that's how you can. There's different avenues to get heard. I don't know specifically this person's situation, and I'm not gonna pretend like I do. I'm just telling you what I did. In Ohio, we have Ohio Disciplinary Council. I filed the grievance. I went online, filed the grievance for both my situations to make sure that at least it was on the record. And it was kind of like the same process that I'm going through in terms of, the actual, system, the family court system. I know this is different for this person, but I'm just giving my story as an example. I had to, when I didn't get what I wanted from filing the grievance, I had to appeal the same way I had to appeal the final order of the custody and the child support, right? I had to appeal that was two different separate appeals. They ended up companioning together. But when it came to the issue I had with my lawyer, that's a different situation. And that's why I liked what Greg just said there in terms of, the bar association and whatever it is that you have, is something that you might want to look into, yourself. Obviously, Greg and his folks can help you, but I'm just telling you, like, that made a difference for me to build a record. So that way that record that I'm building in one area can get transferred to another area. If nothing more, but a notation type of thing.
The judge allowed the withdrawal. Well, I can understand allowing the withdrawal, and he probably would have said something to he or she would have said something to the degree of, well, you may not want an attorney who doesn't want to be on your case to be on your case. What I'll do is allow the withdrawal, give you reasonable time to find a new attorney. And then you go through the process, and then you just reset the trial date. He didn't. Okay. Yeah, probably reach out. I think we can find a way to help you get somebody without. I don't want to get into the whole. I can't give you legal advice, but I could just tell you what I think and what I would do if it were me, or actually tell you what kind of question I might even put into an AI search engine or what have you, or Google. Or that is just off to me. Reading it at face value, which I don't ever do. I like to see documents and what have you. Please don't put the case number in here though. But just say don't put it in here. But that's interesting.
But it goes back to what you just said. You need a combination. You mentioned your support system before, right? You mentioned your foundation and your background and you doing your due diligence. Then you mentioned before the technology aspect of things, and that's what I think that a bigger part of our point, besides this specific situation, but a bigger part of our point is using those tools to your advantage, not just relying on one thing, because this is my perspective on it. This is the game. I always say there is no profit without conflict. There is no profit without conflict. There is no profit without conflict. So I'm not even surprised no more. And maybe it's because I'm becoming more numb to all of this, scenario, whatever the case is. But when I see stuff that don't make no sense, that don't add up, somebody farted and try to blame you for it. You know what I'm saying? Even though you smell them. When I'm in that situation, I'm like, okay, I see what's going on. Like this is what it's all about. Because if it was so easy, if it was so straight to the point, if it was a clear answer, you wouldn't even be putting nothing in the chat right now or asking Greg for any help. You wouldn't know exactly what to do, based on my perspective. So it's all these nuances that create that pro se or pro level pro se type of person when you're able to look at this, use your tools and your resources at your disposal, not relying on any one set of tools or resources, but going back, hate to beat a dead horse, going back using the AI because we don't have to just use Google anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like doing that. Yeah. At least, and at least using, I know I love to just use AI as a baseline. Like, just use it as a tool to help me get somewhere. And then I verify that. I verify that with the other resources or sources, based on my state, based on my situation or whatever the case is. So I think that that's something you really, might want to think about. Just might want to think about, doing or whatever the case is and what works for you. But I think that's the bigger part that we're really trying to talk about is if you're going to be pro, I mean, if you're going to go at this, you cannot go at this not being pro, especially when you ain't got no attorney, especially when your attorney drops you. And you have no idea how I felt to walk into a trial I had waited a year and a half to be in, and my attorney withdraws the night before, but technically the day of the trial. And they told me, Mr. Stevens, your next witness. And I knew for a fact that's illegal. Like, no, you can't do that. I didn't make my attorney withdraw. I like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't tell this person to go away. It wasn't none of that. It was they had a conflict of scheduling. How convenient that I paid them money for months ago. They knew about it, but somehow they got a conflict of scheduling, and they thought the judge or the magistrate was going to give them some grace and continue the trial. Guess what? The magistrate didn't. So they withdrew anyway. And their withdrawal did not actually get documented in the record till almost 2 months later. So technically, they were still my lawyer on the record until 2 months later. And guess when I challenged that, the judge was like,
to the order withdrawal went in, right? To the order allowing the withdrawal.
So that's all I'm saying is that the pattern that I see, that I have experienced is when there's things like this happening. You know, I don't think it's always merely a coincidence. You know, who knows? I'm not going to speculate, but it's not always merely a coincidence. You have to take it as if it's not a coincidence, you know, find those patterns, find those pieces, and then plug those like you're plugging, you know, a light in so you can turn that light on. You know what I'm saying? You plug that into whatever it is that you're doing so that way you have a better perspective. Because Greg is going to tell you, he don't always want you to rely on him, even though he wants you to utilize what he has, you know, what he can share, and, you know, do it that way. But Greg always tells me he don't want us to rely on him. He wants us to be better than him. And I think that the way that we become better than him is by taking those different approaches.
Oh, please don't post that one. The views and opinions on this say represent those of GD Nabsy, Greg Doss, GD non-attorney pro consultants, YouTube channel. Jesus, did you see?
I didn't put it up. You see, I didn't. If that's what you said. I didn't put it up, but I understand it though. I understand. I understand it.
I didn't either. I just, Jesus.
What are your final thoughts, though? I mean, what are your thoughts in terms of
what's what's come out of this right here? Has me processing it, and that's just the way that I am as an individual. I believe that the show topic and the name and title was perfect for what happened today. I appreciate you asking me to come along and kind of share some of my information and my experiences with the audience, and even giving me opportunity to collaborate. Anything I can do to help anybody. I'm about community. I don't want you people calling me. I don't like you, but I love my people. And so there's never going, if money or anything else ever becomes more important than my people, it's time for me to leave this place. Okay. We're supposed to be here for each other. And if I don't love my people, who should? So take advantage of the opportunities that you have to reach out. And you have another resource on here. I don't know how you all communicate behind scene when it comes to insurance, but that young lady right there is a great insurance source. I'm a little frustrated because what I'm hearing just doesn't jive. And I know if you're at the appellate level, yeah, she's been in the industry for a while, and that's another one of my resources. And then my dad, Series 6220, training coordinator for communicable diseases for the state of Florida. You know, multiple degreed, and that's the proud thing about, my situation. Oh yeah, AAA, don't worry about it. Keep your head up. I'm just processing it. So I'm not here to condemn you. And I'm sure she's not either. We're all three of us, and probably some other people who are watching, are definitely processing what you're telling us. Because, and I'm almost thinking that the second DCA, depending on the appeal, if it's right, if it's already, because you had trial in February. Okay, so you're in the appellate court, so there's probably some interaction, some briefs, probably extensions being filed. I would think that the second DCA I'm hoping the second DCA will remand it and give you more time, depending on what happened in the trial. This is not the place to discuss it right here or here right now. I'm just baffled by what you just told us. November, December, January, February, and then thanks,
But
Ms. B. I
definitely
know.
shout outs though. Shout out,
Huh?
you know, I say shout
Oh
out to
yeah,
this person. At the same time,
yeah.
it's not easy to go through this, especially to get
Yeah.
to the appeals. Wait, what? This is my first appeal. Greg is on his 115,000 appeal. I'm just joking, y'all. But this is my first appeal, and at first I was nervous going into it. I'm just keeping it all the way real. I was nervous going into it. It's very intimidating because my previous lawyers say that they could not represent me in the appellate court, which is kind of crazy. That I'm like, well, how can you not? You're a lawyer, but you can't. Okay, I'll do it myself. What they say.
Some attorneys are not appellate attorneys, though.
But okay, so see, this is my opinion. However, if I can do it myself, they can do something too. Like that's BS to me, because if I can do it myself and I'm not an attorney at all, I don't practice law. I've never practiced law.
You want an underqualified attorney representing you in the appeal?
No, I agree with you on that. I'm not disagreeing. I concede on the understanding that the specialist, right? Just because you hire a graphic designer doesn't mean they're interior designer. But design is in both situations, right? That part I understand. I concede on that perspective. My thought process is that they make it seem as if it's so hard that you can't do it. There's many times where they intimidated me, where they made it seem as if I couldn't do it. You know, that's the part where I'm arguing with, okay, well, just because you aren't specialized or qualified or whatever eyed on it, I will take care of it. And that's what I did. I took care of it. And how I knew that I did something right, because my actual opinion or the consideration is coming this August. I had to fight to get that consideration. Fight so hard, August 25th. And that took about a year. I filed my appeals back in October of last year, and I'm just getting to get a consideration, not the actual opinion. So, you know, it's a process, but I will say this to this person that's going through this, that kudos to you. It's very courageous. It's very, you know, you're honoring yourself and your own value of who you are and what you stand for, what you believe in. And I know how intimidating it can be. So it's unfortunate you're going through this, you know, this situation, but I just want to say, keep your head up. You know, I don't want you to look at Greg's, you know, bewildering face and, you know what I'm saying, because he's really processing and think, oh man, it's really it's going down. I'm never going to get, yes, you are. You're going to get through it. It's just how you get through it. You know what I'm saying? What are those things that you do to get through it? And we want to make sure to encourage, to keep it real with y'all. You got to keep it real with y'all, but we want to also make sure to show yourself some love, pat yourself on the back. I'm not trying to be super, you know, no preachy or whatever the case is, but I just want you to know that I'm telling you, I think those of us, and that's why I look up to Greg, because when I look at somebody go through that appellate procedure, especially multiple times, I mean, that's almost, it feels like you're winning a championship. Like everything else is kind of like, you know what I'm saying, the playoffs, and you're in the, but then you get to that point and then you get there, like you're in the real game, because this is where you're looking at the errors made. You're not relitigating the case. You ain't relitigating. Like this to me is a whole different ball game. And most people, especially I know in the family court system, I can't speak for civil, I can't speak for criminal, but I can tell you percentage wise in the family court system, I've done the statistics, I've seen the math, I've seen it all. It's less than 5% of people that even get that far. Less than 5. So if you're in an appellate process, you are like the top 10% of people that are litigating their case and doing it in a way to where they're not going to let, or they're not going to stand for anything. You know what I'm saying? You stand for anything. I mean, you fall for, let's say you stand for nothing, you fall for anything. So you standing for something because you don't want to fall for nothing.
Yeah, no, I'm extremely sympathetic to you. And so I'm processing it from a compassionate heart's perspective. And if I look frustrated, it's not with you. It's going to always be the process. Yeah, I can't separate what I know from who I am, nor can I separate who I am from what I know. So if I'm looking at this just from a cursory perspective, it's not adding up. So, you know, there's probably some things that I would probably say otherwise, but we'll get it going.
Unless you Doctor Strange, you know what I'm saying? If you Doctor Strange, you can separate some, you know what I'm saying? You've seen him separate Spider-Man from his soul. You know, you say, unless you're the one, you can separate. But no, I'm just joking, y'all. In this case, no, it is kind of hard to separate those two situations. So, I mean, what are your final thoughts? How you want to?
Well, I'll say this right here. You have to have a dog's mentality, and you have to have you have to be willing to be the ultimate student, the ultimate self-critiquer. Because nobody's more critical of me than me when it comes to how I perform in any of these opportunities. I've had over 200 interactions. whether in court and what have you. Somebody told me 2 years ago to yeah, in the right time. No, we're going to get you where you want to be. If somebody told me a year ago I'd be in the United States Supreme Court, I'd be like, oh hell no, because I'm going to get what I needed at the Middle District area. Didn't get what I wanted in the Middle District. I had to appeal to the 11th Circuit. 11th Circuit didn't give me what I wanted, so I'm in the United States Supreme Court. And I sent it to Marshall, that stack of damn papers and all the stuff that I had to go through, because the Supreme Court is extremely they're strict as to how you can apply and file things. And anybody who wants to see it, you can always go to the United States Supreme Court site and see my my filing. I think it's somewhere around here. I don't know, but you can find it nonetheless. And I tell people, like my show says, I want you to see what I've gone through, so there's never any confusion as to what it actually is, because I would never want to be responsible for misleading somebody. Never. So, but what you're telling me, I don't think it's you so much. I think it's something that we can, that there's something that's missing from this, from the narrative, so to speak. And we're going to try to get you somebody who can help you. And I'm almost positive Bay Area Legal could do it. And if not, oh yeah, there's a lot of players. No, absolutely. Hey, listen, trust me. I've been through the ringer with these people, and it's not easy. And we all just need somebody sometimes that can help us out with what we have going on. And that's it. You know, we'll be okay. Just like that right there. I think it just showed it. Maybe not. Oh, there you go. See that? I gotta call. Make sure I call them tomorrow and tell them to change this part is right, but this part is, oh, they changed it. Okay. I did send it. They got it. Because it was, oh, no, there you go. I gotta change this. I got my name spelled wrong. I took them up tomorrow, but everything you want to see, the petition, the appendix, the motion for leave to avoid all these costs, the proof of service, and all you gotta do is hit it and you'll see it. And these are the things that, you know, that has to be filed within the court itself. And it's a process. So again, I'm not processing you from a critical perspective. I just want to know what happened and see if we can hopefully preserve what you have going on. Yeah. And so it's all there. I think we're going to be okay though. We're going to get through it, and we're going to hopefully point you in the right direction.
And to that, which we just saw, something that quickly, you know, just hit my mind. And this is just me, but I like seeing the fact that, you know, in the appellate process, and like you said, the Supreme Court, and especially in my situation, when it comes to like the family court scenario, in juvenile court, you don't get to see, you know, this information publicly. So I know it may sound kind of weird to y'all for me to say it like this, but I can't wait till this appellate procedure is over with, regardless if I win or lose. And this is something that me and Claude and ChatGPT have been going in terms of like my strategy. I don't care whether I win or lose in the appellate court, as much as I care that the information is out there so others can see, right? Because once the appellate court happens, now, you know, I can show X, Y, and Z from a public view, and they can't scrutinize me because it's public. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can't use that against me at that point in time. And so for me, that's something that I look forward to. And regardless of whether the outcome comes my way, I already have my playbook. Like I already have the playbook ready to go. So in the playbook that I have, it does not matter whether I go left or right. You know what I'm saying? Jay-Z said, you know, went by the fork in the road and drove by the fork in the road and went straight. And sometimes you got to think that way. It does not matter if it ends up left side or right side. Like remember the Titans with Denzel Washington? Left side, right side. It don't, you know, on this situation, you still have to have your mental right. You have to have your next play ready. You know what I'm saying? Just in case. And that way you're prepared and mental wise, because it will take a toll on you. This is a war of attrition. They want that you will get worn down, as we talked about before, and that toll on you will get taken and make you start to make mistakes, careless mistakes that you wouldn't have made otherwise, being able to keep yourself clear-minded, clear-headed. So that's why I said, come up with your playbook, come up with your plays and what you're going to do, no matter what the outcome is. What are you prepared to continue? Because the moment that you are going to shut yourself down because things didn't go your way, that's when it's already going to hit you. Well, the good Lord didn't split you, or we already split you, as they say.
Yeah, a coach. I remember one of my coaches used to tell me when I first started kind of understanding how football worked or how game planning and strategy worked. What he would say is, you run play 1 to set up play 8, and so that's one of the things. And if it makes you feel better, as Stroh's saying, you're gonna see a million of mine. So when you're talking about, and we'll look through here. And that's why I'm just really baffled by what is that appellant? Should be in here somewhere. What is the appellant? Party appellant. Here we go. And then you just put in that last name, and it's a unique one. This is the Florida Court of Appeals. So you see that name. Well, that's me. That's me. All these are appellates. In fact, this is the case that just got. This is the one where you couldn't hear me, so you can go find that. It's actually on YouTube. But you see all these appeals, and I can't think of the one that was actually a reversal. I think it's 198T. Oh, it's actually not even an appeal. That would be the mandamus or certiorari is what I filed, and they turned it into an appeal. So I can't even find it, so I'm not going to. But just wanted to show you. Don't worry about it. We'll be okay. You're gonna be okay. Just gotta make sure we didn't give up something and that we can't have them otherwise get you back in there. I actually had to file a motion before to reinstate an appeal, and they granted it. So I'm more just processing what you're telling me than what your situation is or any frustration with you. I'm just trying to get it figured out so we can hopefully get you okay. Because if it's workman's comp, Ms. Bennell, if it's workman's comp, then it's economics involved, right? And hopefully we can get it resolved pretty well. At least you ain't got to pay his attorney any money, because if he withdrew and he probably took the case on contingency, not giving you legal advice, you may not owe him any idea.
See, those nuances that you got to think about. But that for you, that's years of experience. Years of experience and understanding. Everybody doesn't think about that immediately, especially when you're in the thick of it. That's why sometimes it is better to hire an attorney. And to be able to have one. Pro se is not easy.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a different perspective, because we are emotionally caught up. Like, you really have to be stoic. If you don't know that word stoicism, better learn it. You have to be stoic when you are in these positions, because the more that you get more emotionally attached to your situation and the outcome,
the more blinded you become.
The more blinded you become. Right. So that's something. But hey, what do you say? We can say that one for the next episode.
The next episode.
Getting ready to get out of here. Thank y'all for joining. I appreciate y'all. Much love to everybody who has joined this live stream, and not just joined the live stream. Yeah, you got something? You say you want something?
No, well, I'll let you close it out there. I say.
But for the most part, if you're watching the replay, don't forget to like. If you haven't already liked, like the video, like the live stream. Like the replay as well too, if you're not participating,
and subscribe to the channels,
and subscribe to the channels. I threw my channel inside of the Greg. Do you want to throw yours in there as well too? Have you already done that? I know you threw your website and your number.
Greg Dawes GDNAPSC. All you gotta do is look at what's over my shoulder right here. Or y'all in fact, it's right there in front of him. My name. Is go to YouTube, Greg Dawes, GDNAPSC. Of course, you don't have the space in the Greg Dawes, nor the GDNAPSC. And we just kind of look at it more so as a Greg Dawes, non-attorney pro se coaching. And as always, imparting, I always say sometimes it's not about right or wrong. More importantly, it's about clarity. You never reach resolution if you're not willing to engage in honest dialogue, even if the dialogue is with yourself. Take time to hug the person you love and love the person you hug. So on behalf of GD non-attorney pro se consultant, I'm Greg Dawes. I'm the most nefarious and infamous DJ Squid. I'm always saying peace and chicken grease, and I always shout out all the veterans. Maestro.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna just keep it easy. You spoke for us, so I'm gonna just say Lego to Prego. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Stop playing games, y'all, with people's time, money, with they kids. Stop playing games. If you getting games played with, you already know who y'all can watch and just hopefully get some inspiration, motivation from. So we out this. Peace. Ending stream. All right.
Is it?